So JoAnn Fletcher is from the District 214 Literacy Program for Adults, and she's going to tell us all about that. So JoAnn, take your time. I know we're a little bit behind. We're not going to put you on a clock unless it gets close to 2 o'clock.
I promise I will not go that long. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with your group today. I think it's a perfect day for a Zoom meeting. You know, I listened to the weather last night and they promised it wasn't going to snow today. So much for believing them in the future. I'm also originally from Buffalo, New York, and I must say I am getting tired of all of this snow. So thank goodness for Zoom. Anyway, I'm going to share my screen with you. And I'm going to talk about the Read to Learn Adult Literacy Volunteer Program. It's a fancy name. We go pretty much by Read to Learn. And what I would like to share with you today, in addition to talking about what Read to Learn is and what we do, is I want to just share some facts about literacy in the United States. I would like to be able to help you understand what Read to Learn is and what we do. We are a part of Township High School District 214 Community Education, and to show exactly how we fit into that overall. Who it is we serve, our volunteers, who they are, what kind of backgrounds they have, what distinguishes us from other literacy programs. We like to think that we are unique, and in some ways we are. I want to talk about the impact on the pandemic on our program. It hit a lot of programs statewide. Some of them were forced to shut down completely, but fortunately we were not one of those. So I do want to talk about that a little bit. And then where do we go from here? What are our next steps? So as far as some literacy facts, more than 36 million adults in the United States struggle to read. This is about 10% of the US population, which when you think about it is a staggering number looking at our education system. Another thing that struck me when I read it was that children with low literate parents have a 72% chance of being at the lowest reading level. I read that a mother's literacy level or her reading level has a big impact on her children. Low literacy costs more than $225 billion annually in unemployment. People who are not able to read or write are not able to find jobs or to keep jobs. So it's a huge cost to our economy. $230 billion a year in healthcare costs is linked to low adult literacy skills. When you think about it, those with low health literacy are those that require more hospitalization and use more emergency services than those who are at a higher skill level. And lastly, over 53% of immigrants are proficient English speakers. That leaves 47% who struggle with their English language skills. And this impacts them in the areas of being able to get good jobs, of being able to get into college. It can affect their ability to get citizenship. And it also makes them more vulnerable to living in poverty. So these are overwhelming and staggering statistics regarding literacy in this country. So who are we? And what do we do in all of this? Read to Learn is a one-to-one tutoring program for adult learners. And these are basic literacy skills that we focus on, basic reading, writing, and grammar. The majority of our students are learning English as a second language, but we do have some students who are native English speakers who somehow didn't make it through the school system as they should have. So we work with any adult who is below the 8th grade reading level. We are also site-based, and we totally depend on volunteers to serve our clients. Our program last year just celebrated its 35th anniversary, and we started out around this time back in 1985 with 8 students and 8 tutors. So in those 35 years, we have served over 13,000 adult learners, and we've trained over 6,200 volunteers to work with these adult learners. Our program also is not funded through District 214. We do depend on grant funding and donations. Our biggest funder is the Secretary of State Office of Literacy. And we also receive donations from other organizations and from individuals as well. This is a picture of what adult education and family literacy within community education looks like. Read to Learn, as you can see, is just one small piece of the overall programs. We also offer ESL classes, English as Second Language, all the way from beginners to those who speak no English, up to those who are advanced English speakers. We have classes in high school equivalency, citizenship. We have a Spanish GED class. We have programs that Reading 101, which is a higher level reading and writing class for students. So pretty much once they graduate from Read to Learn, they can move into Reading 101 or even college and career writing. In the last couple of years, we've added a pharmacy tech and a manufacturing program. So community education not only has all of those programs that are listed in the program guide that comes out every year, but these are also programs within adult education and family literacy. So where does Read to Learn meet? All right, we have 12 classes that we offer at 10 locations in Northwest suburban Chicago. We have 2 that meet at Arlington Heights Library. We meet at Elk Grove Library, Forest View Educational Center, which is where adult education and family literacy is housed. We are here in Arlington Heights. Indian Trails Library, Mount Prospect Library. We also have some sites at churches, such as Our Savior Lutheran Church in Arlington Heights, Prince of Peace Lutheran Church in Schaumburg. Also some high schools within the district, Rolling Meadows High School, Wheeling High School, and also at Schaumburg District, Township District Library. We have 2 classes there. Adult learners and tutors decide where it is they want to go. What is the site that is most convenient for them based on pretty much where they live or where they work. We do not assign locations. We let both the tutors and the adult learners decide which site is most convenient for them. And one thing that has been different for us is that usually, and for the last 34 years, we were an in-person program where we met at those 10 sites. But tutoring has taken place online since September of 2020. We have classes that are available Monday through Friday. We have morning, afternoon, and evening classes that are available to our learners. Our classes meet regularly once a week for 2.5 hours. And we have 2 10-week semesters each year. We just started what we call our spring semester last week, and that will go through April. And then our next semester will begin in September of this year. So our semesters begin February and September for 10 weeks. The Read to Learn tutors, first of all, they're all volunteers. Nobody is getting paid for the time that they are spending with our learners. And they come from a variety of backgrounds. We have engineers, we have doctors, we have lawyers, we have teachers, even though no teaching experience is required. And this is the big thing that I always emphasize when I'm talking to groups, especially those that might be interested in volunteering, that immediately when they hear the word tutor, they think, oh, I'm not a teacher, I can't do this. We train, we offer training. As long as you can speak English and you have a basic understanding of English grammar, then you're going to do fine as a tutor. I always tell groups of new tutors, I tell them that I am not a teacher by trade. I came from the corporate world. My background is human resources, not teaching. And I started out as a Read to Learn tutor and became a site supervisor and then became the program coordinator 4 years ago. So you don't need to be a teacher or have a teaching background, but what you do need is a desire to help adults improve their English skills. And it's amazing when we're working with students, and I remember back to my days as a tutor, how appreciative every little thing that we do for these learners and how much they appreciate the effort that our volunteers give them, because they do understand that our volunteers are giving up their time in order to help them. I mentioned training is provided. We have training in January and August of every year. We just had our first Zoom training in January. Normally our training is in person, but we tried it on Zoom this time and it worked out very well. So we don't know if our next training in August will also be on Zoom, but at least we know now that we can do it that way if we have to. The other nice thing for volunteers is that they work with the same adult learner the entire semester and for ongoing semesters. So as long as both the student and the tutor return each semester, they will continue to work together. And that continuity does make a difference for the adult learner. And it also builds a bond between the tutor and their learner. And we have had some stories from tutors who have shared that even though their adult learner went back to their home country, that they still stay in touch with that learner. So there are some deep relationships that are formed as well in our program. We even had a tutor who traveled to Japan to visit their student. So it's not just a tutor-student relationship that gets formed, it's a real bond. And sometimes they'll meet outside of class as well. They might get together for lunch or for coffee to help the student perhaps with their speaking skills or their ability to order off a menu, or just spending some additional time together, as our classes are only 2.5 hours each week. Now, what makes us unique? Well, first of all, we are site-based. Now, we are not the only literacy program in Illinois, but we are unique in the fact that we are totally site-based. The other literacy programs in Illinois match tutors and students together, and then it is up to that pair to decide when and where they're going to meet. And it's up to the tutor to provide all the materials for that adult learner. But here, we have a paid educator, or what we call a site supervisor, at each of our sites. And the site supervisor creates individual lesson plans for each student. So it's not a one-size-fits-all program. We look at the student's level where they are currently, and we do that by testing. We look at what their needs are, what their goals are, and all lesson plans are then designed to fit into those goals and to help meet the needs then of the students. So everything is provided for the tutor. All the tutor has to do is come to class, and everything is there waiting for them. So that's what makes us unique. The fact that we're site-based, that we have a paid educator on site, and that all materials and lesson plans are provided by us. We were going great for 35 years until last March. And I remember being in the office, I think it was around March 12th, and we were all pulled into a meeting and told that due to the pandemic, that our offices were going to close for, at that time, for 2 weeks. And at the same time, I was getting messages from our community partners, the libraries specifically, that they were not going to be allowing in-person meetings anymore. So, you know, then we have the governor issuing the stay-at-home order. Well, we're an in-person site. We meet face-to-face. So we had to kind of look around and say, now what are we going to do? Now what? In-person tutoring was no longer an option for us. And we had never looked into anything online before. Our other programs within community ed had been doing some online classes, our ESL, our citizenship classes. Some of them had been meeting on Zoom. But since we depend so much on those in-person meetings, we never really had the need to take a look at online options. So we were kind of in a quandary last March. We ended up having to suspend our semester. So we never quite got it finished, but we were able to get in at least half of it. But we knew that was not going to be acceptable going forward. I love this quote that's been attributed to Winston Churchill, and I kind of took it on as my theme going into the months of April, May, June, and so forth, is never let a good crisis go to waste. And I realized at that point, we were in a crisis situation. You know, what are we going to do? We basically started out with a blank sheet of paper. Like I said, we had never done this before. We had no experience with online tutoring. We didn't even know if it was going to work or how our adult learners and our tutors were going to react. We have a lot of older tutors, and I'm older myself, so I can say this, that some were technology challenged, if you will. Some had never heard of Zoom. I had never really used Zoom myself. I had been in on Zoom meetings, but I had never set up one. I never knew the mechanics of Zoom. And so all of a sudden, here we are having to decide the direction we're going to go, because shutting down completely was just not an option. So this blank piece of paper is staring back at us, and we don't even know if our tutors and our learners are going to be receptive to going online. So to make a long story short, we did successfully transition to online tutoring beginning last fall. We had a smaller class, well, not class, but enrollment. We had about a third of our students enroll that we would normally have had for in-person. We still had the skeptics. We even had some students who were skeptical about it. We had a lot of tutors who were just not sure. They liked that in-person, being able to see their student directly, hands-on. They have paper right in front of them. If we went to online tutoring, the first question is, well, how am I going to get my materials? How is this going to work? Those were the exact same questions we had from our end as well. But as the semester went on last fall, we even managed to convince the skeptics, because a lot of them have come back for this semester that began last week. So even some tutors who were unsure last fall are now coming back to tutor with this semester, because we are still online since our community partners, again, are not allowing in-person meetings. One good thing that resulted in all of this, we had done an informal survey at the end of the semester, that many of our tutors really feared technology. They heard the word Zoom, they heard the word online, and it was very intimidating for them. And they just were afraid. And they just didn't know if this was something that they wanted to take on. We had a lot of convincing to do with tutors. We did hold some training. We told them that if they can click on their computer, then they're going to be fine, because everything else was being done by their site supervisor. So our tutors were very brave in facing their own fear of solely using technology. We would encourage them to use technology during our in-person classes, but now we're telling them that in-person option is no longer there, and you're going to have to do everything online. But what was good from our perspective is that both tutors and adult learners reported a positive experience. I saw no real negative feedback from either side. I did have some tutors still express their frustration with technology, but everybody experiences that to a degree. And I've always said technology is great when it works. And there were some issues with getting people logged into Zoom and getting them into the class and all of that. But after weeks 1 or 2, people pretty much got into the routine. And they found that tutoring online was really not a whole lot different than tutoring in person. And we found too that our attendance was so much better, because nobody had to leave their house. Nobody had to call and say, my car won't start. All they had to do was go to their living room or their kitchen, wherever they were going to go. So it had a very positive impact on our attendance in the program. I'm hoping that we can get back to in-person tutoring in the fall, and that's going to be dependent, again, on our community partners. It will depend on if the libraries, the churches, and the high schools are able to accept in-person meetings again. We do currently have one in-person site, and that is meeting here at Forest View. But other than that, our other 11 sites are totally online at this point. But I think everybody's kind of eager to get back to an in-person setting. So hopefully in the fall, we're going to be able to do that. So just to quickly sum up what I've said, Read to Learn has served our community for over 35 years. And we are dependent on volunteers to serve our learners. We can only accept as many learners as we have tutors. And again, we do provide all materials and we do provide training as well. This is our website, our direct website, which contains our scheduling information. And there's also a link there for tutors who might be interested in applying and signing up for training. And lastly, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to share Read to Learn. Like I said before, I've been involved with Read to Learn since about 2003. And I have a real passion for the work that we do. I have seen a lot of success stories. As a matter of fact, we have one person in our office here within adult education who was a former Read to Learn student who is now working with us here with our data entry. So we have multiple success stories, and we just look forward to another 35 years of working in the community. And again, we thank you for your partnership with us and for your support of our programs. And I'm just so happy to have had this chance today to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, JoAnn.